And I also wanted to give you all a heads up that my husband is an essential worker right now, and unfortunately he got called in this morning. So I've got my toddler playing around in the background of this call. In true mom, the coronavirus fashion, he's running around. So apologize for the background noise of the toddler play. But we're really excited to be here speaking with you all today. I'm so excited to be able to chat with you, Sheina, and to have this conversation. I think this is a piece that sometimes we forget to prepare for when we're going into new parenthood. We think about, having the nursery ready and doing the registry and, envision what it's going to be like with baby, but we don't always remember to take that step back and have that conversation with our partner about, what our expectations are, what we envision, what we think, maybe trying to get a head start on solving some of the problems that we think can come up. So I'm so excited to be having this conversation with you today. Thank you for joining. We'll just go ahead and do some brief introductions. For those who don't know me, I'm Rochelle. I'm a childbirth educator located in the Bay Area of California. I just recently launched From Pregnant to Parent as a way to provide childbirth education. And then I'm in the process of getting certified to become a doula as well. So offering that soon too. Shane, I'll go ahead and pass to you if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. Do you see me? Because I don't see myself. So I don't hear you now either.
Oops, sorry.
Okay.
I can see you.
Oh, you could. Okay. I guess maybe because I'm in a phone layout, so like I don't know what I look like right now because I only see the slideshow and you. So I don't know if there's like a way for me to
I
um
think if you there should be like a little dot maybe on the top right of your screen where you can toggle the views.
let me see. No, there's something with participants. I'm thinking if I should grab my laptop and like quickly switch to that. Let me see this. No. I'm just gonna play around with this for 1 second, and then if I can't figure it out, I'll just talk and you'll just see me and I won't see myself.
You look great if it helps.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's no, it's just like a little strange not to see where I am on the screen. I used to like these Zoom calls. Anyways, so hi, I'm Shayna, and I'm a licensed mental health counselor based out of New York, licensed in New York and Florida, and also now because of COVID, temporarily licensed in New Jersey. And I work with women 20s to 40s dealing with different life transitions, which the one that has popped up most often is becoming new parents or pregnant or trying to get pregnant. And that's something I've been seeing a lot of. And so I decided to niche to that in my Instagram, and anything that the more research that I do is geared towards that, though I do have other people who still come in with other things as well, like anxiety, which comes up a lot for new parents as well, with how to deal with things they're not used to, deal with fears of being a new mom. Anxiety can be definitely exacerbated when you are a new mom if that is something that you already struggle with. And a little fun fact about me, I'm the youngest of 8. So always grew up with a big family.
I love that. Well, like I said, I'm so excited to have you here. Just to give us an idea of who we've got on the phone, looks like all first-time parents. Everyone's expecting right now or already has a parent and expecting. We've got no multiples on the phone, but we'll go ahead and address maybe some of those anyways, just in case somebody who's watching the recording maybe has some twins or triplets or, navigating as a second-time parent. We can briefly touch on those as well, but just good to give us an idea of kind of who's on the phone. So I know one of the first pieces of this conversation that I'd love to have with you, one of the question that probably everyone has is, what are some of those common road bumps that people are coming to you with? Like, what do you see as some of those hot topics that parents, once they've come into this new role as a parent? What are some of those challenges that you're seeing people run into?
So a lot of times people don't feel understood, and it goes both ways. So obviously your relationship shifts when there's a new kid in the picture. And there's a saying that if you always treat each other as if you're dating, then you're never gonna need to go to relationship therapy. But the problem is that as we get used to relationships and get comfortable, we also get more comfortable with um, certain things that we wouldn't do if we were in a new relationship, like things like criticism, things like um, not lack of respect, but not putting as much effort into certain things. So when you're just dating someone, when you wake up in the morning, you're all excited to text them good morning. Like when you're at work, you text them all day. Like when you come home, you text them. When you just move in together, you're also like, running to the door when you hear the key in the lock, things like that. And then as you get more comfortable in the relationship, those things kind of drift away if you're not conscientious about them. So you're like not saying necessarily like you're rushing out in the morning to go to work. You don't take that few seconds to just say, "Oh, have a great day," which those little things are what really make the biggest difference in a relationship, is what research has found. So things like that, they're not happening. And then bring a baby into the picture, and it gets even more busy and lots of other fun stuff. But now it's not that you're just not running to the door when you hear the key turning in the lock, but you're busy like nursing the baby on the couch and overwhelmed because you just changed the fifth diaper in a row. And then they walk in and you're already not in the best mood, maybe. And then they're like, "Oh, how was your day?" And maybe you blow up at them, or things like that can happen if you're not conscientious about it. And even when you are conscientious about it, it still happens at times because life doesn't always go according to the way that we want it to. Different things happen. When we're new parents, we have a lot lack of sleep, which is a torture strategy. We're not eating properly all the time, as like we spoke about when we talked, and you're not taking care of your self-care the same way that you would when you were single. Sometimes when we're busy working, we're not great about that stuff in general. Like we don't meal prep, we don't sometimes we stay up a little late, too late on our phones, different things like that. And suddenly when you're a new parent, you still have some of those bad habits that aren't so great for you, but now you also have this little human being who's dependent on you, and you're not getting sleep because this person needs you to wake up to feed them and change their diaper. And then if their diaper leaks in the middle of the night, then that's fun to have to like do a whole change in the middle of the night. But all these different things happen, and because you're not having sleep, you're not having that nourishment necessarily, you're not you feel misunderstood. You also have a lot of hormones running through you, which is going to affect your moods. That's all going to play a role in how you feel as an individual, which is then going to play a role in how much patience you have in your relationship and how you communicate in your relationship.
That totally makes sense, especially when you factor in, like you said, this we're not sleeping, we're learning these new roles, there's a lot going on, there's sometimes the patience is low, the
Yeah,
all of these things. And I know it can be hard too, because there's so much to learn here that's taking up so much of your mental capacity as a new parent, just trying to figure out that new role that sometimes it can that extra level of effort, I think, to think outside of ourselves, maybe in it and think of our partner in a new and different way, even
right.
can be really, really difficult. Um, I know.
Yeah. Also for dads, studies have shown, and I mean, this is real life experience. Nowadays, it's shifted a bit. But moms get all the support in the beginning when there is support, where their friends call them, their mom comes, um, all this different stuff. People are giving them gifts, giving them tips. A lot of people are not communicating with the dad. So the dad often feels left out and feels like he's not getting support. No one's calling him to check in on how he's feeling. And he feels like, I just lost my wife almost. Like, is she ever going to be my partner again? Or is she just going to be a mom? And he has all these feelings going on. So there's a lot of misunderstanding, or lack of feeling understood coming from both sides, but everybody's just tired and overwhelmed, so people aren't expressing it in the way that would lead to something constructive most of the time.
That's such a great point too, just about dads not always feeling like they're that as much of that central focus as maybe the mom baby unit. So what are some of those things that you're seeing, or that you've been able to recommend or see be really successful in couples who are trying to navigate that role sharing in the beginning? I think sometimes, I know, like for us in particular, I was a breastfeeding mom, and I think sometimes it felt uncomfortable, for not uncomfortable, but maybe a little uncharted for my husband, to trying to figure out, how do I fit into this situation, right? Like, she seems really comfortable and connected with our baby, and where do I fit in there? I want to help in the middle of the night, but also, like, I don't have the boob, and like, any tips for navigating that, the role sharing conversations?
So yeah, I mean, you also have to take into account like what's going on work-wise. Are both of you on parental leave? Does your husband get paternity leave? Because if one person is on leave, then they're gonna be like, okay, like I should be the one to sacrifice my sleep, although that's not always easy. And again, it's not like a should be. It's you have to still have a conversation about it and come to an agreement on it. It shouldn't just be a given. But a lot of dads do get paternity leave nowadays. And so some ways that, for example, a situation you mentioned in the middle of the night, yes, you're the one who has to feed the baby if you're nursing. But I mean, you've been there, I've been there. That diaper change after the nurse just takes you at a different level than just having to nurse. So I know that in the beginning, for me, a lot of times when I was nursing my baby, I would, you know, like turn to my husband and say, hey, can you do the diaper change? And like he'd get up like groggy eyed, do the diaper change. Sometimes it didn't, like that ended up there was a leak when we woke up in the morning, but it happens. And that ties into another thing, which is called maternal gatekeeping. And that's how we have different ways that we want things to go. Like we like putting on the diaper a certain way, we like giving bath a certain way, we like feeding the baby a certain way, all these kind of things. And they don't stop just when the baby's a baby. It's not only when the baby's a baby, it continues through toddlerhood and then through once they're in elementary school, etc. It's something that's always around of how we think we want to do things. And when we do that, our spouses or partners feel that they don't know what to do and then they'd rather not try, or they'd rather just like they're like, oh, you can handle it, you do it perfect. Whenever I do it, you tell me I'm not doing it the right way. So they just kind of take a back seat and just let you do it. And you get frustrated that they're not helping, but you're not letting them help. And you want them to help in the way that you do it, but that's not how they do it. And then that complicates it for them and makes them feel that they can't be the help that you want. So they just, kind of give up. I know that that happened with my husband and I a lot with bath time, where for me it was like more of like an efficient get her bathed and get her to bed. And he used to do like more of like, because he did it less often than me, it was like a whole game. Like he brought out all the toys and all this stuff. So it would be like frustrating if we were in a rush or like had to go out for the night or somewhere. Then, you know, then sorry, there's background noise here too. So, we're all not in our normal spaces with this
Right. Glad I'm in the
Corona
other room.
time. Yeah. So, there was, so he used to do it like a whole playtime thing. And so if we were going out to dinner and like the babysitter was going to be there in 20 minutes or 15 minutes and I needed her to be bathed quickly, I couldn't say like, oh, you bathe her and I'll get dressed, because I knew he was going to do whole playtime. And so I went and just like, quickly did the bath and then got dressed and like was still getting dressed when the babysitter came instead of being able to leave. And like that would be frustrating. And then I kind of just like realized to let go a little bit more, which happened more and more when I got pregnant with our second kid, because then I literally couldn't bathe her towards the end of my pregnancy. I couldn't bend over the bathtub. It was really uncomfortable. And so I was just able to let it go. And it was really freeing to, have that extra help. And I was like, hey, I don't care how the bathtub happens, as long as she's clean, as long as like we get her to bed at a normal time, it's not a big deal. And now he himself, sometimes he'll do a quicker bath time, sometimes he'll do a longer bath time, depending what he's in the mood of, depending on, what's going on. Um, and that comes up in so many ways in the way that we parent and with different things that we ask for help with. So this ties back to the changing the diapers in the middle of the night. If you notice that he does in a way that sometimes it leaks, like you'll deal with a few of those leaks to get that extra help. If it's like leaking on a constant basis, like every single night, then be like, hey, can you be a little bit more careful when you're putting the diaper on to put it on properly so that we don't have to change the baby every single morning as soon as we wake up into new clothes. But just figuring out certain things and letting things slide, even when they're not exactly the way you would want to do them, because every little piece of help, even if it's done differently the way that you would ideally want, makes a difference and makes him feel included.
Yeah, I know that was huge for us too. Is that the maternal gatekeeping is so real. 'Cause sometimes we feel like we're the ones with the best ideas or the best way to do it or the best. We mama knows best, right? But that having that help
Mm.
is so key. Um, and I wanted to go back what you said too about like how critical that was. The breastfeeding is the one thing, and then doing the diaper change afterwards. That was how we ended up figuring out in our own house how my husband could feel involved because he wanted to do his part. He wanted to share in the responsibility, especially while he was on paternity leave. And I know that was true for me too, where just that feeling of support of, okay, I'll nurse, he does the diaper change, and sometimes he'd even sit on the ground and just hang out for a little while longer and falling asleep next to the chair and finally be like, okay, go to bed.
Yeah,
But just that little extra help I know can go a long way.
yeah.
um
Yeah, and I know like when I went after our first, my husband went back to work before I did. So I felt like, that at night I wanted to let him sleep since he was going to be working all day and I could really take a nap at home. But even so, there were some nights where she'd be screeching because maybe I ate something that didn't sit well with her. And he on his own would be like, do you want me to hold her for a bit? Or sometimes I like asked him, but it only happened a few times. I didn't feel too bad. But like there were times when he would literally hold her for like 2 hours and till she would finally fall asleep. And yeah, he was tired the next day at work, but it wasn't a constant thing.
yeah. What advice do you have for I know for me I was not a person who was really comfortable asking for and accepting help before we had baby. And I'm continually getting better at it. I feel like because we really help is so necessary. I think. But what advice do you have for the moms out there who maybe do struggle with, or even the dads who struggle with asking for and accepting help?
Just give me 1 second. I think somebody opened the door in here, so I'm just gonna close the door so it's a little bit less noisy. So you were saying to how do you start asking for help when it's harder?
Yeah, just like what advice do you have for somebody who maybe isn't used to asking for help and just like feeling, looking to feel more comfortable with asking for help and accepting help, even?
So find some things that don't matter to you as much at first, like maybe burping the baby or, grabbing you something from the fridge, like when you need water, um, if you are giving the baby a bottle, then, warming up the bottle, different things like that. Find little things that don't feel as critical to you that they need to be done in an exact way and ask for help on those because you do need help. You can't do it all on your own. And they say it takes a village, which nowadays is a little different than it used to be, but you really do need support of somebody else. It's really hard. I mean, even single moms typically have their mom come in and help them or a friend come in. To do it all by yourself, it's it's hard. There's no need to be superwoman and feel like, "Oh, I know everything. I'm the mother, so I need to do it all this and that way." If you can't get any support, there's even services that will give support for you if you're, low income, things like that. I know, especially now with coronavirus going on, and there being a lot of new moms who are not able to get the support that they usually do because their parents can't come to them to help them out, or, people that they would rely on are not around or they can't commute to them. They know that there have been different organizations who have been trying to like send meals to new moms or then that like call them on FaceTime or, have a support line where they can reach out because it is really important to get any support that you can through this time. You just created a human. It's tiring, it's exhausting. And once they come out, that's where the real hard work begins. Like, as if pregnancy wasn't tiring enough towards the end, it's a different kind of lack of sleep. I remember with my first that I was talking to my sister in the last month that I was pregnant. She came a month early. So this was like at the beginning of my eighth month. And I was saying how I can't get a comfortable position at night. And she was like, soon you're going to find out what really not being able to sleep means. Like, enjoy this period. And, I saw what she meant less than a month later. And then, it's hard to sleep towards the end of pregnancy. And then you have to go into this sudden, almost like an Olympics, having to care for this baby so much in the beginning. And that hospital stay is not, conducive to rest. Although, like, I know they're no, I just had my second a couple months ago, and the hospitals are now way more. They call it something room in, yeah. That they really don't have like babies going to the nursery as much. They keep the baby by you the whole time, except for like when they take the baby to bathe them a day into your stay there. And also, like, if you really, really need some sleep and the baby's not sleeping in the bassinet because the baby can't be in your bed when you're sleeping, then like they'll take the baby for like an hour or so you can get a little bit of rest. But they're coming in every 20 minutes to like check your blood pressure, check your temperature, check this, check that, check the baby. It's overwhelming. So, and then you get home and you went from suddenly having people come check on you every 5 seconds. Now you have peace of mind and quiet, but like no one's there to help you. And it's a rough transition. So you definitely need to ask for that help if you can, if you have it available to you.
I love that. I especially love that. It's like an Olympic challenge going into it, and it really kind of is. What do you recommend for new parents? Like, what are some of those conversations that they can start to have before baby arrives, just to start kind of thinking about and talking about, anticipating, what are some of the things that might come up? What conversations do you recommend that couples sit down and kind of talk through together just to prepare and kind of get a jump start on, navigating life with baby?
Well, really, a lot of it is the same as things I would suggest to a couple who doesn't have a kid. It's just that it comes up more frequently when you do have a kid, and it's harder to work on when you do have a kid. So, how you're going to deal with conflict, how you bring up things that bother you about one another, how you're going to show each other respect and care, how you're going to make time for each other. So, like I said before, like in the beginning, that if we would treat each other the way we did when we were dating, then no one would ever need to go to couples therapy or for like very limited things. And divorce rates would be a lot lower. But people get comfortable, and part of that's beautiful that you do feel so comfortable. But the downside to feeling comfortable with somebody is, I mean, we've all seen it in relationships we've had before we had a romantic relationship, whether it's with our families or things like that, where at home you're a lot less polite than you are with a random stranger when you're out. And that's just because you're more comfortable at home, but that's not fair to your loved ones that you're less polite to them or less respectful. If anything, they deserve you at your best more than a random stranger out there. But we feel like, oh, they know us. They know that this isn't me always. When we have an interaction with a stranger, we want to present ourselves in the way we want to be perceived. And we don't want to be perceived as somebody rude or obnoxious or whatever adjective you want to use. So we try to be polite, we try to be understanding and, show care, etc. But then once we're at home and we feel comfortable, we want to be able to just like let loose. And if we had a bad day, we don't want to be walking around on eggshells. We want to be able to just let it all out, which isn't always fair to our partner or our family, our kids, whoever it is at home with us. And those things will happen. It's life. You can't always be on your best behavior, and you don't have to always be on your best behavior. But there are ways to have conflict or have conversations that are healthier, and there are ways that are more damaging. And even if you have conflict in a more damaging way, that doesn't mean that your relationship is doomed. You just have to know how to repair it and learn how to have conflict in a healthier way. So it's not that you're never allowed to argue, you're never allowed to, have a disagreement about something. It's how do you do it? How do you talk about it? And there's different skills to use and different linguistic differences that make a world of a difference. And then when you do have a fight that gets a little too heated, how do you repair from it and how do you try to make things better going forward? And knowing that that will happen and preparing for that is really, really important. And then also having that one-on-one time for you guys. It's hard to, when we are dating, we make sure to see each other, to go out to a restaurant, go out to a movie, and different things like that. Whereas once we are living together, you see each other every single night after work. So you make less of an effort to have an actual date night, and then it happens more rarely. And then bring a kid into the picture, suddenly it's like almost never happening because, like, maybe if you're a first time parent and you don't live near family, you're worried about getting a babysitter, you don't trust anybody else with your kids, or you don't want to leave them, even if your parent is around. You're like, is it worth it to go to this or that place and leave my kid alone with somebody else? And your partner still needs that one on one time, and so do you.
Speaking of kids in the picture, right?
Yeah,
Literally.
your little guy.
No, I love that. And it really sounds like just knowing what works for you guys to get yourselves out of those funks. That safe way that I can communicate to you, hey, I'm feeling disrespected right now, or like, hey, I'm feeling disconnected right now. And just kind of
Yeah,
knowing and having maybe like your own little toolkit of, okay, this is what we know works for us to help us get back to normal, to get back to ourselves, to get back to respectful conversation, respectful communication, get back to
yeah.
feeling connected.
Yeah, so there's that. There are those different ways of communicating. There's also different behaviors that we do when we are new in a relationship. Sometimes, not even thinking about them, and sometimes we don't necessarily have them, but they are important. That as a relationship goes on, we're not as aware of them or conscientious about making them happen. Like I said in the beginning, one of them is like saying goodbye in the morning before you both head out for work, or if one of you works, one of you stays at home, like giving that person a goodbye, a proper goodbye, instead of just rushing out. And in the afternoon, when people come back home, having a proper greeting and making sure to have that date night. Um, I'm a huge fan of the Gottmans. They're psychologists based out of Seattle that have the Love Lab, and they founded the Gottman method. John and Julie Gottman, both psychologists, and they are known as like, he is known, John Gottman is one of like the foremost relationship experts in the US, if not the world now. And they founded Gottman Therapy, which I'm a huge fan of the different principles, and they apply to people in relationships at all stages. So he has something called the 6 hours a week, and it's useful for any relationship. When you're parents, it might be harder to suddenly like give all this time to your relationship and be conscientious about it. So I recommend to clients to, pick two things from those six things that you implement into your relationship for that first few weeks. And after like 2 to 3 weeks, that it becomes more of a habit, choose another thing to implement. And there are things like, partings, reunions. Reunions is like when you come back home, date night, um, having a State of the Union meeting, which is like once a week talking about where the relationship is at, what you both need from each other, what's working, what needs to be worked on, things like that. And it says like how much time each thing should have. So like obviously partings in the morning is just going to be a few minutes. Reunions in the afternoon is something that's more like 15, 20 minutes, like asking how, not just saying, oh, hey, how are you? It's like, how was your day? Like what happened today? Showing that you actually care about them and want to see what's going on for them, because we want to feel cared for. I know myself that sometimes I get busy and like my husband comes in and I'm, you know, typing something on my laptop or, on a phone call, and it bothers him that like I didn't like say like, "Hey, how was your day?" And because people want to want to feel cared for. They want to feel, nurtured, and we need to show our partners care because they are the most important people in our lives.
I love that. I know it's so easy. Sometimes you're caught up, you're in the middle of, a diaper change, a feeding, reading a book, or doing something, and just remembering that importance of just and take a pause and say hello and acknowledge, and just those little things sometimes make such a big difference. The Gottman
Yeah.
Institute is probably one of my favorite follows on Instagram. I love that you brought them up.
Yeah.
I think they do an app called Love Cards, which is a
Yeah.
really easy, simple. We found that when we're too tired to connect, using that as kind of an easy way to
Yeah.
connect. I want to make sure that we've leave some time here to open up for questions.
Also, yeah, I just want to say one other
Yeah.
thing. Another thing that I love using with couples is the five love languages, which, yeah, so you are familiar with it. Um, so, that ties in as well, that when you're doing all these habits, being in tune to the things that make your partner feel cared for is so important. Like, for example, for me, acts of service is not super high on my list. But for my husband, it is. And he'll do those things for me very often because that's how he feels cared for and shows care. Where he'll like make breakfast when we have a day where we're not working, and he'll like ask me like, "Oh, did you eat anything today?" And I'm a little less conscious of that because it's not my love language. And so I try to be a little bit more conscious of it because I know that that's how he feels cared for. So, being in tune to what your love language is and what your partner's love language is so that you can show care for each other and tell them how you need to get care is really important in being able to feel cared for, respected, appreciated, loved, etc.
I love that. I've got one more question you just inspired in me. For someone whose love language is physical affection, I think, right after you introduce a new baby to the picture, I think mom sometimes struggles with mom's healing. First of all, mom's exhausted, coming back together, but then also maybe struggling with some autonomy, right? You're constantly, or what feels like constantly, either snuggling or nursing or holding, or you're getting
Right.
this kind of overload of affection from your baby, and maybe you're just kind of physical touched out by the
Yeah,
end of the
exactly.
day.
It's touched out.
Yeah.
I know I even have that with my older daughter. Sometimes she'll come and like she likes putting her hand like on my chest ever since she stopped nursing already a couple of years ago. And like now after I have a baby who's like nursing, I'm like, take your hand out. Like I can't. And that happens with partners as well after a baby. Like you're feeling touched out sometimes so it's important to communicate about that and let them know that, this isn't because of you or something you did or because I'm not attracted to you or I don't love you. It's just that right now my body just went through a lot and is going through a lot. So it's going to take some time for us to get back to where we were before because there's all these new sensations. And, work with me here. Like, what are some other ways that I can show you that I care for you and that I love you that's going to feel comfortable to you or feel good for you so that we can both respect each other's needs? And it's all about communication.
I love that. And that's probably a conversation that's good to have ahead of time too, just to start preparing for setting that
Yeah.
expectation of, hey, like this is what might come up. This is what you might be feeling. This is, might be like this for a few weeks afterwards.
Yeah.
I love that. Um, well, let's go ahead and dive in to some questions here in a sec. First, I just want to remind everyone too, as you're going through this, I think, a big part of asking for help is remembering that there's help. Even in like right now during the pandemic, it can feel like there's a lot of limited resources, but there's so many resources out there for new parents, and a lot of people that are pivoting to virtual. So just knowing that if you are having maybe some trouble with breastfeeding, there's lactation consultants out there. If you're struggling to figure out how to sleep and navigate sleep with a newborn, tapping into a sleep consultant. If you are feeling like you're in a rough patch that you can't navigate your way out of, knowing that you can reach out and get support from a counselor, therapist, and not being afraid to reach out to other parent friends and just say, hey, we feel like we're stuck here. And just remembering, I think like we were talking about earlier, that asking for help that's what the new village looks like these days. I feel like, is
Yeah, I
finding
have a
support
lot of
systems.
clients who will tell me that their best support is from like groups they've joined on Facebook, and they found new mom groups, and sometimes they'll meet up in person. And I mean, I know that that's not happening much nowadays with everything going on. So things have changed a little bit there, but I know people have like formed real relationships that they've found in new mom Facebook groups for like whatever city they live in, and then like they'll go out for coffee or go on a group like date to the park and have a picnic or something, and then people really form great supportive connections that way.
I love that. It's like the virtual village now, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to dive into some questions, but first, just in case some folks start trickling off, I did want to let you know there's multiple ways to keep in touch with both of us and to contact us. I am going to send a recap email afterwards. It's going to have all of this information in there for you. Take a screenshot if you want, but otherwise, just know this will land in your inbox so that you've got it. And then I've got another talk coming up next week. If you want to join in next Saturday, we'll talk about how to be your own doula at a time when a lot of people aren't able to have their doulas with them. Um, and I'm going to just drop a link in the chat as well, a little Survey Monkey link if you want to just give us some feedback on the call today so we can improve them for the future. But let's go ahead and dive in on questions. You can either take yourself off mute and ask live, or like I said, the chat functionality is there if you want to go ahead and ask a question in the chat.
Michelle, so let me know if you see any incoming questions, because I just see the slide showing you on my
Perfect.
end.
Okay. Nothing so far. Don't be shy, guys. Feel free to dive in. Oh yeah, can I share a link to the love cards? Absolutely. I'll go ahead and I'll put that in the recap email that I send out afterwards, the follow-up email, so that you've got that in there. I can go ahead and put a link in for the Gottman Institute as well.
And I can also, yeah, I can send you the link to the 6 hours a week. Is that what you're talking about? I see the questions like popping up in the top of my screen. So I see someone just asked the link for the other resource. Okay, so the 6 hours a week, I'll send you that link because I have it on the ready. I send it to clients all the time, and you could include that in the email.
Perfect. Yeah, that sounds like really great. I'm glad you asked that, Natasha. You bet. We can definitely send that.
Okay, so let's see, any other questions? Yes, I guess that's it. I guess if anybody has any follow-up questions to any of the stuff, reach out to me either via my email address or on Instagram through the DMs, Love After Baby. For random questions, I can always answer through there. Though remember that Instagram is not therapy, so any like personal therapeutic questions wouldn't be able to be addressed there, just more general stuff. And yeah, reach out if you have any further questions on any of this.
Sheina, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so glad that we could take this time to have this discussion. I think this is really, really wonderful, and I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. And I hope that we can do something like this again when we're both like in our normal surroundings and
Yes.
don't have all of this craziness going on around us.
That sounds fantastic. We can plan on it.
Okay, enjoy the rest of your weekend, although all the days feel the same nowadays.
Right? Our Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, right? All in one.
Exactly.
All
Okay.
right. Well, thanks everyone for joining. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll get that email out to you in the next couple hours here. It'll just take me a little while to get the video uploaded and get a link for you all. But thanks for joining, and hopefully we'll be chatting with you all again soon in some capacity.
Okay. Bye. Have a great day.
Bye, you too.